It's been weeks now since I've been live. Wait, why is it in black and white? What? Can I change the effects? Ah! I can't hear anything because of the heater. I mean, the air conditioner. It's been quite some time since I've been live. In case you're wondering what this is about, it's about the Iran situation. I guess we kind of wanted to dabble into that. The prompt is about what happened. Wait a minute, is that Ian? What the heck? Long time no see. Whoa, what is up?
What's up, bro?
How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
What do you think about the Iran situation?
Um, Interesting. Don't have too much context on it, but who knows? World War III could happen. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, I wouldn't say World War III would come out of it. I just think it's another useless war in the Middle East. I think that
Yeah.
it's not needed, and it came from baseless claims that Israel and sometimes the United States would make for maybe 30 since the 1980s, actually, since we found out that Iran was enriching uranium. They just kept on making these baseless claims that they were 2 weeks away from getting nuclear weapons, or however long from getting nuclear weapons, to kind of fearmonger people into justifying things going on in Iran. And it's just not true, like, at all, because the most enriched in uranium that we've seen from Iran, like, ever documented, even when they like got out of our whole plan where we were going to look over and limit their nuclear programs, they've only had 83% enriched uranium, which isn't enough to get a weapon grade amount, which would lead to nuclear weapons, because the amount that you would need is 90% for a like a weapon grade amount of uranium enriched, and they've never reached that level. So I just think it's baseless, and I think it's just not justified.
I see. Yeah. Not really fond of blowing people up. Yeah.
Backroots, if you want to come up here and like talk to me about how that's cap and talk about it, but I mean, I've done
Oh,
my
come up. Yeah. I guess you have a conversation between you two.
yeah, I mean, I've done my research on nuclear programs, and it's
Yeah. People have been asking me to have this prompt, and I had it like a week, and I haven't used it yet.
I think it's a good talking point. I think it's really big right now too. So
Oh, if you're wondering why the Pope is on there, a Protestant made it for me, so that's why the Pope's on
okay.
there.
Hello, am I coming through? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so if that were the case, are you refuting like the UN's findings on that at all, like that they had achieved 90% enrichment?
I would refute it until I see evidence of them, like bringing forth evidence that they've reached 90% for uranium, because the only documented amount of enriched uranium that they've had is 83%.
Okay,
Like,
so the UN dropped their findings, and then like I don't know, 3 weeks later. Hold on, let me pull out my computer. I think 3 weeks later they tested one. Do you know how to detect subterranean nuclear testing?
No, I don't.
How to verify that? Yeah, so you can determine if a seismic event was a subterranean nuclear test by its S waves and P waves that show up on a seismograph, and you can detect these like in the ocean, all over the globe. It's a part of our monitoring system, and how we determine whether or not other countries are testing them, because they create a very distinct mark on a seismograph. And the first time Trump flew over there and did it was less than 12 hours after they tested one. And then they tested two more in the 2 days leading up to what happened with the Navy and the Air Force.
Okay, so
Recently.
I would just ask you, right, before even backtracking from the IAEA's findings of 83%. Well, I mean, if you want to round up 84% in Iran, right, which again is the only, I haven't seen any other documentation of there being more enriched uranium from Iran. But even if you don't want to talk about that, right, we can also talk about when we did, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word, but blow up their nuclear programs in, I think it was June 2025, June something, I don't know. And when we did that, they were still again at 60%, right? And we that was confirmed it was at 60%. And then they also said that they would take 2 or more years for them to build back up to where they were before we blew them up. So if we go by those things, and I haven't seen anything so far of them saying that they're going to take earlier than 2 or more years to build back up to where they were from. If we take all of that and then we apply it to what's going on now, I would still say that everything that's going on in the Middle East is baseless. And honestly, just I don't want to put the full blame on this because it's put too much on it, but led by Israel. I'm gonna be honest, right? Because they've been known for.
I love Donald Trump. You're a bunch of liberal sissies.
1 second, they're in the middle of a conversation. 1 second.
You're a bunch of liberal sissies, a lot of you.
Well, I don't think he's a liberal, but 1 second.
Could you define liberal for me?
You're a liberal. God bless Donald Trump. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing.
Right.
God bless him. He'll do it again. He'll do it to you.
Donald Trump is definitely not a Christian.
God bless Donald Trump. He loves
Donald
everyone.
Trump
You
is
don't
definitely
love
not a
him. You're a
Christian.
liberal sissy. He'll bomb you.
I mean, I sure hope not.
Okay, back to rationality land. Continue.
So again, if we take with all of that information, right? We blew up their nuclear programs. I'm so used to saying the other word. Sorry, we blew up their nuclear program, or in Trump's word, obliterated it in June of 2025, and they were at 60% before we obliterated them. And they said that they would take up to 2 years or more for them to get back up to where they were before we obliterated their nuclear programs. And now we're back here saying that they're closer than ever to getting, nuclear weapons and all of this stuff, right? Then that just wouldn't make sense, and that wouldn't track with what he's saying. So I would also say,
I hear you. I just want to make sure that I get this information clear, because I don't want to spread any misinformation. I just very, very distinctly remember reading a UN article that they had the necessary facilities and had reached the ability to generate highly enriched weapons grade uranium. And I'm attempting to locate this source, and I'm having some difficulties finding it. But I very distinctly remember reading this. But I do see where it says that they've achieved 20% with speculation that they have the necessary facilities to manufacture highly enriched uranium, and then it keeps looping me back to the Institute of Science, and I'm looking for the specific UN articles. So if you just give me a second, I just want to make sure that I have the best
Yeah, no,
information for you.
you're all good. You're good. I did cite one thing from because the IAEA is like a part of the UN. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, like the 84% in their, I think it was their Fordo, I don't know how to say it, fuel enrichment plant. That's where they found the most. But other than that, I don't think that there's anything else recorded, 90%. But if you want to try and find that.
I think it was more so the detection that they have the capacity in conjunction with the positive indicator of nuclear testing. But I just want to verify this.
Well, I mean, even if they had the capacity, right, you would have to determine intent. They could have the capacity to develop nuclear weapons all they want, right? And although it's hard to find intent because they kind of just derailed from the IAEA, right? You would still have to find intent, at least for me, right? If I'm running a country like Donald Trump is, well, I would never run a country like Donald Trump is, but if I am running a country, and I am planning to, I'm trying to find like the TikTok safe words to say this, planning to go to a country and just blow them up, right? Or just send a bunch of, military operations over to that country. I would want to find intent behind the reason a country is doing something for what I'm trying to go over there for, rather than to try and make something up just because they have said capacity to do so. I would agree that if we did find nuclear weapons in Iran, that's scary, and I don't think they should ever have nuclear weapons, right? I don't think that's a country we would trust with nuclear weapons. But again, from what I understand and from what my point of view of it is, respective of your point of view, is capacity does not mean intent, right? I could have the capacity to make anything, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to use said things that provide me the capacity to make something to make it. So.
Right, and I agree. Like the determination of intent is based more off of statement and off of the actualization of the capability, right? So I am going to shift away because I will acknowledge that the only thing I'm finding is that they have the necessary facilities to manufacture highly enriched uranium, which was the subject matter of a bunch of controversial security resolutions. So I think that we can focus more so on verification of tests, and that would more so validate the intent and the actualization of the capability.
Okay, so do you have anything that would enlighten the conversation to why it's justified that we're going to Iran?
Right. So this is a country that throughout the last 30 years we can verify has openly and been openly about ending and eradicating the West and Israel. They have made it sort of their slogan, unaliving to Israel, unaliving to the United States, unaliving to the West. And they have stated multiple times, I mean, the whole principle behind them having so much concern is that it's not just Israel and it's not just the United States when they talk about annihilating the Western Hemisphere. So, I mean, I think that that's pretty good and sound in displaying intent if they were to actualize their capability, just merely through statement.
Okay, so if they were, and I wouldn't say, I do think that they're anti-West, right? I think they just they don't like the United States, obviously. But I would say that considering the fact that we've never found a single weapon or ballistic missile or anything of the type that could reach all the way to the United States, and any of this, right? that these attempts to try and spew out anti-American rhetoric and anti-Israeli rhetoric, which I would argue anti-Israeli rhetoric isn't really that bad anymore, and all of this stuff, right? I feel like it would make it a lot less serious considering their capabilities when it comes to actually doing something to the West. And I do agree we have military bases in the Middle East, and we have military bases very close that are being attacked right now by Iran, right? Which I don't agree with. But again, even though they're anti-America and all of this stuff, right? I would just then base the question again back to why our president, the person who is kind of leading this whole operation, right, alongside Israel, is saying that the reason why we're over there is because of their nuclear programs. That's what he's based the reason of when we did the same thing last year. And now this year, again, just 10 times worse. We're doing the same thing for pretty much the same reasons. Like in his 8-minute video that he came out with after they unalived the supreme leader in Iran, he talked about the reasons why he's over there. And he wanted regime change, which I doubt, because if you really want regime change, then that would lead to you having some sort of care for the people or some sort of cherishment for the people of Iran or the innocent people of Iran. But then we find out that the United States or Israel, I don't think it's confirmed right now, but people are more leading to the fact that the United States blew up a all-girls elementary school and unalived about 170 innocent little girls that have nothing to do with this conflict. That would lead me to believe that Donald Trump and the United States and Israel, depending on where the confirmation comes from of who actually blew up this elementary school, doesn't care about the Iranian people and is just trying to kind of cover up the reason why they're actually there, right? We had a congressional briefing on why we're in Iran, and people from Congress came out of that room and said that it's worse than we think. The reason that we're over there is way worse than we think. So all of these things would lead me to conclude that the only reason that we're over there, or the only reason that could maybe be sustained whatsoever, is because of their nuclear programs, not because they're anti-America. Because if it's because they're anti-America, then we would have done this during Trump's first presidency, and we would have been doing a lot worse. We would have been taking these threats a lot more seriously. Sorry.
I would say that like when the threat is present, right, but not actualized. So it's different than when there is a threat and it is being actualized, right? So if I make a threat that if I ever got my hands on these things, I would absolutely annihilate my enemies with it. And then I'm saying it like if I have it. It's just a hypothetical.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, it's just a hypothetical, right? But the second I start actualizing it, we start getting 4.1 to 4.4 magnitude earthquakes that are showing up as subterranean nuclear testing out of the heart of their country, right underneath their nuclear facility. I would say that it's no longer a hypothetical. You're actualizing that potential, and you're doing the things that would otherwise jeopardize global security.
Okay, but again, this isn't really. I understand that this like earthquake stuff and all of this stuff would increase the like threat level to what they're saying about the United States and all of this stuff. But again, I don't think, and I think everybody knows that they would never have the capacity to actually do something to the West.
You think that, and I think there's a big misconception. Like you don't have to have an ICBM or a hypersonic missile in order to reach out and touch the United States. In fact, the biggest threat to most heavily urban populated areas is going to be like dirty BOMBs, which are a type of nuclear weapon, but specifically designed to cause the most detrimental impact through fallout and radiation exposure. And you don't need an ICBM to get this into a city. You just need to get the individual components and highly to mid-rich enriched uranium over to a generalized area and then construct the device. That like the biggest concern is that they not only have the ability to refine the uranium and produce these things, but they also have showed the actualization to split the atom. And I can show source material to verify that what they're doing is testing them, and we can just utilize the information that we gathered from North Korea when they were developing their program between 2006 to 2016. And we can compare the seismograph readings, and we can compare the testing facilities that were utilized. And we can see, we can point out all the similarities, how they're nearly identical in all aspects, right? The only difference is that the Iranian government seems to be moving much faster with their testing than we saw in North Korea, and they're vehemently backing up this narrative to annihilate the West and to annihilate Israel. So that's a concern.
If they're moving a lot faster in a significant rate, then how come they've never reached, again, back to what I was saying earlier, this 90% percentile range for them to be able to have a weapon grade amount of uranium? If they're moving that much faster to the point where we look at it as a significant threat for us to be going over there and doing what we're doing over there, right? Then how come they've never reached this percentile since the 1980s?
So you're saying since the 1980s?
Yes.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong. That's when we found out they were starting to do this.
Right. And there's a specific process that is required in order to enrich uranium to that level. And it requires a specific type of machine and specific types of facilities to do so. Okay, they have the specific machines, they have the specific facilities, they know the specific processes, and it's all a matter of the amount of time that lapsed between them activating these machines at full blast, producing highly enriched uranium, and when we drop the first barrage of bunker busters on them. So that's the amount of time between the last UN assessment and the first wave of military action.
I'm confused as to what your point is.
My point is that any business, and if you've ever worked in any corporate environment, in any sort of any sort of situation that has audits, right? You understand that you have a checklist of the things that they're going to be looking for based off of history and available records, and you make sure that you're all ready and pretty presented for the audit. But the second that they leave, then it's okay, well, the audit's over, right? And we can continue business as usual without being so performative. So the UN's coming. Let's not just quite use these machines to produce 90% enriched uranium. Let's wait until after the UN assesses us, and then we can produce it. And we have enough time between this inspection and the next one to be able to advance our program tenfold of what we're currently at. That's my point. My point is they have the capability. They have the
capability, but when they know they're going to get checked, that they wouldn't go up to what they are capable of doing.
Exactly. And all that the UN verified is that, they do have the capability to produce weapon grade uranium. They're just only producing enough at the level, the 60% capable of running there.
How could you verify the fact that they were decreasing the amount that they were actually making, or they were sustaining an amount that wouldn't be seen as a threat level, or that wouldn't have been seen as okay, now we need to do something about this, right? You can say oh yeah, we're gonna not make as much to the point where it seems as to that 90 percentile range. We're not going to make that much because we know that they're coming to check on us, right? But when they leave, we're going to keep on doing it, because when the last time they checked, or not the last time, but when they checked in 2023 is when they found the 84%. But then when we blew up their or again, obliterated in Trump's words, their nuclear program in 2025, they were at 60%. So now my confusion is, okay, well, if they don't want to have the UN see how much they have when they come and check on them. Wouldn't it make more sense for them to be at a higher percentile range in 2025 when we blew them up rather than what they were like when in 2023 when we found 83%?
No, so I think it was more terrifying when we did post site analysis to find such low grade on site, because the goal, at least, was hoping that in the first wave of strikes that we would have hit their stockpile and made it impossible for them to continue testing. And what we found in post site analysis is that we didn't strike a single one of their storage facilities where they're storing the fissile material. That's all we verified.
Okay, do you have evidence that we verified this? That we did
post site analysis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that there was various radio telemetries that were taken.
Yeah, but I'm asking for like evidence.
Okay, it's gonna believe it was. Hold on. I want to give you the URL
because that was
I don't know. Also,
that was during Midnight Hammers. What you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Because it says right here from what I'm reading off of, and I can pull up other sources if you want me to, but when we look at The Guardian, right? The target, it says the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, the AEOI, confirmed that its attacks took place on its Fordo, Isfahan, and I don't know how to say these names, sites, but insisted that its nuclear program would not be stopped. Iran and the UN nuclear watchdog said that there were no immediate signs of radioactive contamination around the three locations after the strikes. The Iranian Red Crescent Society reported no deaths or unalivements from the U.S. Strikes, appearing to confirm Iranian claims that they had been largely evacuated in advance. The health ministry said that those who were injured showed no evidence of nuclear contamination. In the immediate aftermath, the U.S. military officials said that the three sites had suffered severe damage after an operation that had been planned for weeks, suggesting it was coordinated with Israel.
Yes, I'm seeing the same information through the PIRcenter.org. They have a breakdown on the entire operation, breakdown on the munitions used. They give a full comprehensive breakdown, and I'm trying to go to the specific part of the article that was speaking about the post-analysis radio telemetry that was done to verify. Damage from attacks from parts official. Not radio telemetry. Years. You ever read so much stuff that you just I need to start writing sources down.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. You're
Yeah. This is the source for like the necessity for the locations of the strike that proves their capability. This goes through and breaks down each one of the locations and the damages that was done to each location, how they calculated the damage and everything like that. It goes through the different sites, before and after photos of the sites.
right here from CFR.org. It says that satellite imagery suggests that while Iran quickly repaired several ballistic missile facilities, it caused slower progress on fixing its nuclear sites after those attacks.
Yeah, I'm willing to concede the claim. I'm just not going to go in and filter through all of the information there. So just discard that too, I guess. I just believe that it would be justified on the principle of their capabilities. Like regardless of whatever the UN's assessment was of their capabilities after the attacks or at the time right before the attacks at 60%, whatever the fact that they tested a warhead proves that not only they actualized that it proves that they actualized their capability. They had the capability, they tested the weapon. That should be proof enough, regardless of third-party verification of highly enriched uranium. They were producing heavy water. They were producing the hexafluorides necessary to enrich their uranium. They had the required centrifugal machines necessary to refine it to the 90% with all of the necessary components needed to get it there. They had ballistic missile research facilities where they were testing out ICBMs, and then they were detonating subterranean warheads. I don't like. There's not much else other than saying, okay, well, at least like in order to verify the presence of a subterranean nuclear test outside of the seismic telemetry that's produced is to drill to the site that it was done at and extract rocks from it, which is a part of the testing phase to determine like your percentage of fissile material that was used to refine it.
Okay, but then I would just ask you, right, since you believe that it's based off of the capability of them having these nuclear weapons, Israel carries that same capability that Iran has carried, and Israel has been found plausible for committing a genocide per the UN. Well, how come we're not doing anything over there when they're actively doing things that are like outrageously horrible? Iran's doing things to their own people that's outrageously horrible, and other people too because of their religious background or anything else in the Middle East. Israel's doing the same thing to people in Gaza and people because of their religious beliefs or because of whatever they believe in, and or based off of who they even are, or you can just be somebody walking on the side of the street and then boom, you're gone, right? How come we're not doing anything to Israel? India carries that same capacity, right? So how come if it were to be if we were to go by your claim, or not your claim, by your stance of it depending on the capability or the capacity to do said thing, then we would also be doing the same thing in Israel. Although it's our ally, they're still doing outrageously horrible things.
I 100% agree. I agree that they're doing horrendous things. As for their nuclear capability, once a nation achieves that, the ability
to take it from them becomes a matter of mutually assured destruction. So as much as I would acknowledge that there's an ethnic cleansing going on in Gaza, and what they're doing is absolutely atrocious, and it's an egregious human rights violation, and there needs to be a stop put to it. The status of their nuclear capability after it's been established is one that cannot be revoked without potentially invoking mutually assured destruction.
I mean, I understand that, but there's no way of us telling, or there's no way of us to be like, for us to know what they have or how much they have, because they're doing the same thing Iran is doing by not confirming the fact that they have these things, or not denying the fact that they want to keep these things in secret. They're doing the same thing. They're keeping their production capability in secret. Like it's not, they're keeping the things that they're doing in secret, and maybe even, and I can't really put this to play because I don't know if it's true for a fact, but maybe even doing the same thing like you were talking about when it came to the audits, where, okay, we know the UN's going to come and check our things, and now we got to stop producing as much because we don't want to seem as a threat, right? We don't have any way of telling what they actually have, just as we don't have any way of telling what Iran actually has. It's the same scenario on both sides of the table.
I would say the key difference that the United States holds in this, right, are the reason why we haven't stepped in as the international police force, apparently, it has to do with a larger strategic game. It is militaristically advantageous for us to have an ally with someone in the Middle East, at least just in raw terms of proximity to China and Russia. And for the longest time, it was, up until recent events, it was a virtuous action to rebel against the Nazistic principles and back the nation of Israel. So I would say, like, from a socio-political and a militaristic standpoint, it's historically been advantageous of us to have that relationship with them.
Okay, so I agree that it's advantageous to have allies in the Middle East, or at least an ally in the Middle East. But then, out of all the countries we could pick that are in the Middle East, why do we pick Israel? And why do we still continue to pick Israel? Because even after the things that come out about them. Because I would think that it becomes to become less advantageous the more and more things come out about Israel, because then people internationally see, well, look at what Israel's doing, and then look at who's supporting this, look at who's sending money to this country, and they're using some of that money to do what they're doing here, and they're doing this stuff, yet that they have allies with not one of but the strongest country in the entire world. I would say that, yes, it's advantageous for us to have allies in the Middle East, and it's, it would ruin the whole alliance that we have with Israel by us going over there and doing something about their nuclear programs and all of this stuff. But I would also say that, so what, right? Because I feel like our alliance with Israel is less advantageous the more and more things come out about it. I think people look down on us because we have an allyship with Israel.
I would agree. I would also add that the relationship that we have with Israel is of a strategic nature, and because so, they have partnerships with a lot of our hyper advanced military contracts, and have access to weapon systems that may or may not be extremely classified. I mean, when you have companies like Raytheon, who has access to a nation that they can use as a battleground of sense, where you have constant missiles that are coming in, it becomes a place where these military contracts can prove their merit with hyper advanced technologies. So when you have a nation that has access to our classified weaponry, and a nation that has been historically utilized as a proving ground for classified or now classified defense technology, I would say that there is a unwillingness to depart from that from a government's position, because now you have a nation who is your enemy and who has access to all of your toys.
I mean, I would agree, but again, it's more based off of what do you think your country actually stands for, and what do you want other people to look at your country as. I agree that ethically and all of this stuff, right, that they have access to all our classified I don't know what I can say. Weapons. I'll just say that. Hopefully I could say that. But they have access to all of these things, the strategies we use when it comes to our military and all of this stuff and our advanced weaponry. But I think that there's also things that you can do if we were to depart from Israel and we were to do something about what their nuclear capacity, right? I feel like there's things that we could do as a country, being the strongest country in the entire world, that yes, they might have access to these things, but there's also limitations that we can put on them, even though they have access to these things, because we can, they obviously have a stockpile of things, of United States weapons for regional conflicts, so they use our stuff. You probably are using our stuff right now with other countries other than Iran, right? But then we can also set a stop sign on those stockpiles, and we can be like, okay, we're not going to give you anything else anymore, and we're not, that's over with. You stop your nuclear stuff. And it doesn't even have to be a matter of going over there and doing what we're doing in Iran to the same extent as, or doing what we're doing in Iran and doing the same thing to Israel. We haven't talked or had any talks about limiting Israel's nuclear capacity, right? If we have such a strong alliance with Israel, then wouldn't you say that they would be more likely or hold a bigger capacity to be in compliance with our with a contract or something like that we could send over to say, okay, we want to limit you to this, and then we'll give you some of this stuff, right? Kind of we benefit because we now have more security of what's going on, and you benefit because we're going to give you stuff that would benefit your country in other ways. So I would say that yes, we don't have to do it to the extent that we're doing in Iran because of the things that they have access to within the United States. But I would also ask the question of, we don't have to do that, but why are we not doing anything at all, right? Because if it's the matter of capacity for a country to hold nuclear weapons, and when I mean countries, I mean countries that are not good countries at all, right? Because like I said earlier, I don't think Iran should have nuclear weapons at all. I don't think Israel should have nuclear weapons at all, right? Then you should probably do something. You should probably do something about those countries that have the capacity, that are not good countries or that are dangerous countries, for them to be able to have nuclear weapons. So that's what I would say. If it's the matter of capacity, then there shouldn't be any biases to those capacities.
And I would say that I think that when it comes to mutually assured destruction and capacities of all nations, there should be an active move towards dismantling these. I also know that there's a potential that they could be utilized, like we saw when we did global defense protocols. Do you remember? I think it was 2021. We did the global defense things with intercepting asteroids and whatnot. So I would say that, like, having more could be a benefit in the event of extreme circumstances, in light of dogmatic principles that lead to regional conflicts that could spur into all-out nuclear warfare, that it's more necessary to maintain stability and keeping the munitions from the hands of hyper-dogmatic regions, or like, nations that have demonstrated a willingness, participated in the systematic destabilization of that entire region for the last 26 years, longer than that, since what, the 70s? I mean, how long has Iran been the primary actor or benefactor in the destabilization of the entire Middle East while they try to oppress that area with Sharia law? So they've proven to be a negative actor on the global stage with a willingness for colonization, and the use of militaristic force to enforce dogmatic principles, which is everything that I would say that the left stands against and that the right stands against in a lot of aspects. But I would say that, like, allowing these nations to receive this capability and to demonstrate that they have the capacity is far more a greater threat than I feel like you're taking it.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to, like, kind of test your principle of, like, the it mattering on capacity. Like, I understand what you're saying, right? Israel has access to our things. Israel is, Iran is a stronghold when it comes to the destabilization of the Middle East and all of this stuff, right? But I mean, I don't know. I just see it as, like, if we are really going to base our intervention on capacity when it comes to nuclear power or nuclear capacity and all of this stuff, right? Then we need to look at every country that is not, like, I hate saying the word not good, because then it just, like, it doesn't sound smart, but just not good. It's like the countries that are not good, right? So Iran, Israel, and all of these countries in the Middle East, it's not good, have nuclear capacity. You need to look at all of those countries. I'm saying, but I agree with extents depending on each country. I think that there should be far more extents to looking at Israel's nuclear capacities rather than the extents we have in Iran, right? I think there needs to be more extents in Israel. And when I mean extents, I mean of what we actually are going to do over there, rather than because obviously if we go over to Israel and we do the exact same thing we're doing to Iran, it's not going to end well. It's just that's going to be really horrible, right? We all know that. But I don't know. I think when you have that principle that you kind of pointed out earlier, you have to apply it to almost every country that has that capacity. You need to look at those countries, look at their background, look at what they stand for, look at what they say, look at what they, or look at the other countries that they've targeted, or countries that they have allyship with, and all of this stuff, and determine whether or not that their nuclear capacity is a international danger. And then I feel like after you determine that, that's when you take action on said thing.
I would say North Korea, when they were developing theirs, always said we must have these in order to protect ourselves from the greater nations. They said it throughout. They didn't say, "Oh, as soon as I get these, I'm gonna blow up the United States, and I'm gonna blow up everybody." They didn't say that. That's not that. It was Kim was like, "I need to protect myself,"
And Russia was like, if you hurt them, then we hurt you. But in the case of Iran, they're like, nah. Like, we may get oil from them, but whoever takes control, we could get a better deal for our oil from whoever takes control of there. We could just set up like a Joe Biden situation where, you know, we get to control the full pipeline access to 20% of the global trade on fuel. Like, I mean, they're not there. There is no tie to their policies or to their politics or to their people, because they are a radicalized state that has done nothing. And it doesn't have to do anything with their capacity, right? They showed that they have the ability to actualize, and then they actualized upon their capacity. So I would say that's different.
Their capacity.
Right. So I would say that, but that I say that the proof that they've actualized, it's the fact that they have actualized upon their capacity while maintaining the rhetoric that they want to use these to eradicate the West, is the defining principal difference between allowing a nation to develop this technology and preventing him at all cost from achieving it.
Well, I think when you pointed out North Korea earlier, I think the determining factor when it comes to North Korea is that we've never had, or I wouldn't say never, but we've mostly haven't had good relations with North Korea since the Cold War, right? Since the Korean War, when we wanted to stop communism from spreading to South Korea, and we went over there, and then we like went way too far with it when it came to going over the border of South Korea and into North Korea and pushing communism all the way down or all the way up to North Korea, right? And then we went back and we were like, okay, or because I believe it was Eisenhower that was president at this time, right? And he was like, okay, we're not gonna push this far up north. That's not what the plan was, and we're gonna go back down, right? And after all of that happened, that's when, because North Korea has been known for spreading propaganda about the United States. North Korea has been known for not liking the United States, right? For good reason, right? I don't agree with North Korea. I don't agree with the regime in North Korea, but I think that they don't like the United States for good reason. I think at one point they should probably just get over it. I'm going to be honest with you. But with that whole operation in North Korea, or in North Korea and South Korea, they don't like us, that we haven't had good relations with them. Right. So that whole point doesn't really like stand, because we've never had a positive relation with North Korea. And so I'm confused on who actualized on their capacity, because when we talk about the capacity, we talk about the capacity to be able to develop these nuclear weapons and eradicate the West. Right. I'm just confused on that. I'm just trying to get a little bit of like a better understanding of what you were saying when it comes to that. That's why I asked earlier who like actualized on their capacity.
Right. So I would say I was using North Korea as an example of the timeline and of the seismic data at first, and then I used it as like a differential between Iran and between Iran's nuclear development and the development of nuclear weapons in North Korea. So like when it came to the military intervention present with North Korea, that we took, right? When they haven't liked us, they've engaged in, subversionary warfare and injected disinformation and propaganda into our society, right? When they were talking about developing these weapons, we didn't take as adverse and immediate reciprocatory military action as we took, or preemptive, not reciprocatory, but preemptive military action as we took with Iran, due to the nature of the rhetoric of the state. That was the differentiation. It's not so much as like, you have one nation that doesn't like another and that is trying to participate in modern warfare tactics to dismantle the nation through ideas. You have a nation that openly talks about using militaristic control through dogmatism, stating that their God tells them that because our women walk around without their hijabs on, that we're inherently of a lesser being, right? And it's their job to make sure that they take care of us, right? And I know that
So
there's similar systems within the Jewish faith, and that's why I say dogmatism is bad, especially when it's running a nation. There has to be a separation between church and state. I would say that like treating individuals like goyim and then like they're lesser subservient or whatever, I would say is the issue with those two nations. But when it comes to like the actualization of capacity, like when Iran tested, the second that they tested a warhead, that was it. They had actualized upon their capacity. The second that we registered a double flash event in seismic data, that was a wrap. That was a signed, sealed stamp that they had actualized the capacity. It was no longer a question of whether they could produce 90% enriched uranium, and became immediate preemptive protocol that any president who was in sitting office would have enacted, because it is a part of our military strategy when it comes to Iran.
Okay, so I would just ask, what warheads has Iran tested for us to be or take action on their nuclear program?
It's not. It could be a simple A bomb, like the first stage, like the equivalent of a fat man or fat boy, right? Like something that involves a rudimentary system like a demon core housed inside of a detonation chamber, dropped inside of a tube, right? Something rudimentary that just proves a proof of concept that they're capable of splitting the atom, and then the warheads that they're producing are produced in their ICBM facilities that were also struck, their ballistic missile sites.
Okay, but
so can I just say, Ian, is it?
Yeah.
How are you all going anyway? I think you're right, man. It's just to cut in, I guess. Sorry, but it's more about the rhetoric that was being used between like North Korea. We've always known they've been a bit soft. Like they're not really a threat. If you wanted to, you could wipe out the entire peninsula of Korea with one. So they were never a threat. Iran, however, has said multiple times that they want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Now, whether you'll agree with it or not, Israel is your ally, and the US is pretty staunch on if someone runs around threatening their allies with nuclear capability, then the US isn't going to take much shit. So I think that's just what's happening now.
I would just ask, like, how our capabilities when it comes to like military action change when it comes to North Korea and Iran.
Well, Iran's a whole different kettle of fish, my friend. It's a much larger area to have to control militaristically. North Korea, you could pretty much topple that over with just your air force alone. They stand as they stand now. They are not an active threat towards the US or any of her allies.
Well, then again, I would ask, why didn't we do that during the Korean War? If it was so easy to do this, like,
Oh well, the Korean War was a completely different timeline again, my friend. That was the 50s. We didn't have the technology.
You sound super far away from your phone.
yeah, I can't really hear you.
Oh, sorry, man. Is that better? Can you hear me?
No, not really. You're really far away.
Hang on, brother. Hang on.
Oh, there you go. Now you're good.
Yo, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're a lot better.
Sorry, boys. What I was saying, like, no, the Korean War was different. You couldn't just drop a nuke on them then because, one, nukes weren't as refined as they are now. You can have tactical nukes now that only take out, a 30-kilometer square radius, all that kind of shit. But also, I mean, we were just testing helicopter warfare. Well, the Americans were. I don't know that the Australians were doing much of anything in Korea. We were there, but... yeah, so I mean, totally different technology that definitely affects how close you can get to an enemy nation as well. Like the reason that you've had to fly over 3 countries to get to Iran is because you can't just attack them from the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, you could, but it'd just be, you'd be dropping bombs on civilians, and no one wants to see that. So you have to be a little bit more surgical with an enemy like Iran, because you don't know what they're actually. Well, we kind of know what they're capable of, but we don't know. There's always a thing, right? Whoever's willing to do the worst thing usually wins the fight. And these guys have, as you said, like a dogmatic leader, and leadership that is just telling him, like, you know, we're the evil ones, we're the infidel, Israel is bad, yada yada yada. The reason that you took him out so quickly was because he was an actual threat. If they were testing nuclear weapons, I am so proud of America for going in there and going, yep, nah, bang.
Okay, but I'm saying that it's more based off of the risk that they have internationally. That's what I was saying earlier, right? Like
Yeah,
North
definitely.
Korea, according to the Homeland Security, or not Homeland Security, sorry, but like according to the U.S. Homeland, it's literally their advancement on nuclear weapons, ICBMs, and illicit cyber activities have created so much what's the word, regional instability, right? And they've shown that they are a threat that could bring some power. I'm not saying that they're more of a threat than Iran. I would agree that they are
Ain't a
lesser threat
very
than
long,
Iran.
slow game, though, mate.
I didn't hear what you said, sorry.
Sorry, my net just cut out a bit. I said, I think North Korea are playing a very long and slow game, though, my friend. They're waiting for China to be ready. I don't think it's going to happen like that. I think the US is going to be around for a very long time. But you do have enemies, which means that I have enemies as well, being an Australian, and you guys being our biggest military ally. These people are waiting to see what happens in this war. You have Russia and China there, right? I know Russia's been at war for the last, what, 4 years, trying to settle the Ukrainian matter, but they're watching. China and Russia, as well as North Korea and Iran, would all get together gladly if they had the opportunity and take America out. No word of a lie. Because they want to be regional superpowers.
Well, I'm confused as to what your point is, right? Because what my whole thing of like talking about this was to test the principle of like determining your military action on a country based off of capability for their nuclear weapons, right? So
Yeah, so you're asking if
we're
it's
doing these
justified.
things in Iran because of the capability that they have of their nuclear programs, right? They have the
Yeah.
capability to reach that 90 percentile range for their enriched uranium, which they've never done, but they have shown have the capability of doing that, and that's why we're going over there. I still don't agree with that at all, but that's what we're doing. And if we have that idea of like putting military action onto a country because based solely off of their capability, right? Then we need to apply that to all countries, no matter how much of a threat they are. And I would argue that if like North Korea is a lesser threat than Iran, then I feel like we would have already done something about North Korea's nuclear capacity and their nuclear weapons that they claim to have, right? If they're not that strong and if they're all like that weak and all of this stuff, right? Then I would agree that there would have been more action that would have been took one in the Korean War and then two like recently.
Well, again, the Korean War, they didn't have nukes back then, and you were fighting China as well. China was using North Korea as a proxy, and that Cold War has never really ended either. You have not been friends with China for a long time. But the point, I guess, you're asking, is it justified based off the weapons that they have and their capabilities and the actuality of them using them? Iran is this is 100% justified. If Iran ever got the capability of being able to fire one, they would 100% do it. and
Okay,
then do
but
it.
my whole thing is that we shouldn't base these things based solely off of capability. I think that yes, if Iran does obtain a nuclear weapon, that is a bad thing, and we should do everything in its power to stop it. Or if we can determine that the intent behind their nuclear program, getting close to 90% or 90% enriched uranium, if we can determine their intent behind that matter, then and that intent being that they want to create nuclear warheads to, decimate the West or decimate Israel or any of that stuff, then yes, I think we need to take action on that. But if we take action solely off of capability, not determining intent behind that capability that they have or that their growing capability is, then we're just doing things unethically, and we're doing things for no reason at that point if we do it solely off of capability. And
I
that's
agree with what you're saying for sure. Like, I don't think that it's just based off capability, though, my friend, because Khomeini has said many, many, many times that he wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. He's called death to America, death to America. He's convinced people, you guys are the enemy. The rhetoric that he uses is hyperbolic, but it's also very serious, man. He's like, it's not just the fact that they have the ability to enrich uranium and possibly build a nuke. It's the fact that we know without a shadow of a doubt they've told us their intentions for it. They've told us that they want to destroy Israel.
Okay, so again, my point is in relation to their nuclear program, right? There's no intent that there has been determined behind their nuclear program. Yes, there's intent with military action to other countries like Israel and the West and all of these other countries, right? Or like regions. There's military intent and like military action that they want to take against those countries because they just simply don't like them. But Iran has consistently stated that its nuclear program is exclusively for peaceful civilian purposes, and that it does not seek to develop nuclear weapons. There's no intent, although you can argue that they're lying, right? There's still no determined intent to be that or that surely of to the point where we're sending all of these military actions against Iran.
There's an old adage that says if your enemy tells you they're going to do something, you best believe it. So if they have openly stated, they've said, yes, oh no, it's just for like nuclear medicine and stuff like that. That's called takia. It's an Arabic word. It means lying to the infidel. They 100% are building. They're wanting nuclear capability for weapons, mate. And if not them doing it directly, they can give them to their proxies. You ever heard of like suitcase bombs? Like you got a nuke in a suitcase, that kind of thing. They would 100% be funding. I mean, look at who they funded previously. The Houthis, who have caused the world all kinds of trouble through the Strait of Hormuz. They funded Hezbollah. They funded Hamas. They aimed to destabilize that region, and they have very successfully. So it's not necessarily a question of do we know what their intent is? Yes, we know what their intent is.
Oh, can I add on to what you were saying, Dent, a little bit?
Yeah, sure, bro.
And to give a little bit of credence to what he's talking about, Takia is a genuine religious principle. It's not like some sort of straw man of their Islamic view. It is a genuine view. It's even so genuine to the point of where you have minor religious groups like the Alawites in Syria. They use a form of taqiyya in the broader Shia community to shield themselves as normal Muslims, because if they weren't, they would be killed themselves. So, and it's also known to be as like it's their double-edged sword, because people who practice taqiyya, they're put under like suspicion. It's like, well, how can we ever trust what they say? Their intent is unknowable if you have a doctrine of taqiyya. And to be fair to the broader Iranian people, a lot of them, it's like the Persian culture. There's a lot of discontent over there, and it's getting a little bit more secular. But you do have earnest believers in Islam still there, but mostly the regime has a mentality and a strictness and a zealousness to them. that where you can never, it's double speak. You can genuinely never figure out intent if they hold to a doctrine of Takya. That's all I wanted to add on to what you were saying.
No, I appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
This still doesn't really refute anything that I said, right? We're over there for the sole purpose, or, our president said, for the sole purpose of their nuclear programs becoming an international threat, right? He constantly claims that they have missiles that can go to Europe, and he constantly he claims all of these things, right? And that's what he uses to justify the fact that we're over there, which all of those things are not true. And then
Actually, they are.
Reason is then? What do you think the real one is then? If you don't believe those are the
I don't
genuine.
know what the real reason is. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
So
I
hang
don't
on.
think that it's because of nuclear weapons.
So Ian,
Part of that is true,
what if
part
let
of
me
that is
prompt
not
you with an idea of why they might genuinely be over there. I think trying to prevent any power from getting nuclear weapons as a long-term goal is not going to work out. Like, Iran will have nuclear capability in 50 years guaranteed. But the thing is, do you want Islamists in control of nuclear energy, or do you want a secular nation who is a little bit more quid pro quo with you? Because we know for sure if it was this regime or, that regime's baby in 50 years, because, it's not going to be the same people with the same structure. They're going to be an unknowable actor. The thing is, if you can get in early, shift the pawns around a little bit, they're going to get, like I said, it's inevitable. They will have nuclear capability. It says they don't want them currently having nuclear capability. So I think it's more of a topple the regime so the secular average day Joe mentality takes over the regime of Iran, and then it can kind of de-escalate their conflict with Israel. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to wipe it out, and I'm not saying that's my reason to justify them, but I'm saying I think that is the pragmatic standpoint of them.
Yep. Look, they're not really that far from having what your president says anyway. Look, I as an Australian, I kind of like the guy. I don't know why I can't help it, but do I think he's the savior of the world? No. Do I think he always tells the truth? No. Partially what Ian just said then was true. I don't think that they have the capability to launch nuclear missiles into Europe, but they most certainly do have ICBMs. They most certainly do have long-range rockets that can hit Europe for sure. No shadow of a doubt. But they're just
Iran
missing
doesn't
nuclear
have
warhead on it.
ICBMs.
Sorry?
Iran doesn't have ICBMs.
Intercontinentals. What are you talking about? They were shooting them into Israel, bro. Oh, sorry, ballistic. Intercontinental ballistic. Yeah, even a ballistic would reach from Iran, would still reach Europe.
At least it could. I would. I don't know too much about the military logistics of Iran, but I know they could at least attack. They could probably land strikes on, let's say, southern Italy, Greece, maybe. At least, like, I'll give them the credit of saying they can definitely hit anything on the edge of either side of the Mediterranean. I'll give them that much, but I don't really know much about their missile program.
No, Ian was right there. They don't have. I don't think they have ICBMs, but they certainly have long-range ballistic missiles that could definitely hit the southern parts of Europe.
Yeah, but it's not so much the production of an ICBM. Like I was saying, and I don't know if you were in here, but like even like you said, a suitcase style munition could definitely decimate a region. A dirty munition could decimate a whole entire nation. Like these, it's far more than just the ability to strap one on a rocket that's capable of flying around the globe. When you can create a device small enough to fit in a suitcase.
That's exactly right, and that's what we're more scared of than anything, especially when they've proven that they're willing to fund terrorist proxies.
I mean, their nation backs up on a port that it's ships in and out all day long, freighters. Like, the ability to track and verify all shipments that leave that area is impossible.
Hey, voiceless.
What's up?
I got a question. I see you got a little pope up there. Was there like a papal document from the Vatican that they sent out, like giving a thumbs up to this?
No, it's because a Protestant made this for me. That's why they put it. Kind of. I guess kind of like they trolled me.
Okay. I was like, I would have been surprised if like, because like the Vatican is so leftist, wishy-washy.
Yeah,
That
they
like,
lost a lot of backbone. Recently.
yeah, they don't have. I don't think they would have the to borrow a Yiddish word, the chutzpah to do that.
But the prompt was made by a Protestant, so that's why it's on there.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, mate. I find that pretty amusing. You're getting trolled by the proddies.
They made it for me. I asked like, "Hey, can you make a prompt based on this topic?" It's like, okay, they put this on there. Like,
Wait,
okay.
so they did that because you're Catholic?
Yeah, well, inquiring into Catholicism, but yeah.
Oh, inquire into the
Okay.
East, dude. Enjoy it. Come join the mysticism. It's a fun club.
I'll definitely consider it. Yeah, I'll definitely consider it. Yeah.
What's going on, Nate? How you doing, brother?
Dude.
Yeah. What do you think about the prompt?
Yeah, I already said it down in the comments. Bomb the shit out of them, dude. And I don't mean that like in just like a trolling type of way. I mean it in a way that it's absolutely justified for, just as I said down in the comments, like it seems as if like a lot of people don't understand that like these people, well, I should say a heap of their, ways over there are essentially to like chanting death to America, like and then bringing that over here to our Western society as well. It's kind of like what are those like sleeper agent style type of people that come,
Mhm.
there's
Like they're
there's tons
operating in a diaspora.
Oh, dude, there's tons of things to where like, where, how do I put this, man? If you've understood the Islamic religion in a way to where like they have stages throughout history, that is
Yeah, I understand what
essentially,
you're talking about.
yeah, it's like a whole process of things. So like,
Right now they're in Mecca. Right.
what kissing a rock?
Right now they're in Mecca. What do you want from me? I'm in Mecca.
Dude, I what I want is essentially things that may seem extreme to others, but in a way to where like I also feel like sometimes there does need to be like an extreme sense of something to be done to make a big statement, and I usually use a calmer example, such as let's say like if there's a bully in high school or something and he's doing it to a lot of people, well, there does have to essentially come to a point to where the bully is going to get bullied in a way to where like that becomes the example to like you fucked around enough to where we've all had enough of it. So yeah, that's I think it's down to the point to where like Kamala had talked about, don't when they were asked about, what would you say to Iran right now? And she was like, don't. And then fucking Biden was like, don't.
And their response would be Trump's response. I'm gonna come.
Yeah, exactly. I'm coming for you, and not just off of TikTok, but I've got one friend that was in essentially not Iran, but one friend like long-term serviceman that has been in Saudi Arabia, and essentially these people that come from Iran into Saudi Arabia or surrounding areas, these people fucking hate America, dude. Like, and I'm not saying all of them. There's demographics of every person, but like they're
Regime surely does.
yeah, that it does not mix with Western society whatsoever. And
It's
to
more
bring
the
that,
ideology than the regime.
yeah,
Boys. Like Persians, I've met as a Sydney sider, and again, I reckon, I don't know what you boys have had over in the States recently, but shootings in Australia are very, very rare. They usually come down to like bikie gangs.
Yeah,
And
you
stuff
guys
like
had
that.
one, and they took everybody's guns away. It's like the one friend who ruined having anything cool
Yeah,
in school
well,
for everybody.
well, that was back in '96, but this recent one kind of showed us that we need to rearm ourselves. Like two dudes, Islamics, went down to Bondi Beach and started shooting at
Oh yeah, I
the
saw that. I
yeah,
saw that.
yeah,
big Israeli community there in Bondi because after World War II, the only people that wanted to live up around the coastline of Sydney were the Israelis. And it just so happens now that it's some of the most expensive real estate in the world. But because our harbour got attacked by the Japanese, no one wanted to live there. So anyway, there's a high Israeli concentration in Bondi. These guys
Now,
went
didn't
down
this was
there
like 4
deliberately.
months ago, wasn't it?
Mate, this was, yeah,
yeah.
not
I
even,
think I was about to
yeah,
say
about
like
4 months ago.
4.
It was around like 4 months ago. That
3-4
guy,
months. Yeah.
I think it came out that guy actually served in the IDF, one of the shooters.
No, that was absolute fucking nonsense, mate.
That's a little misinformation they threw out there.
100%.
Dude, here's
That's just basically the anti-Zionists going, oh yeah, he was IDF, mate, he was a Muslim. And they went to the Philippines. There's an island in the Philippines down south. I can't remember the name off the top of my head at the moment, but it is run by Islamic extremists. They went down there, received their training, come back here and shot, I think, 19 people on the
damn.
beach. So, yeah, pretty fucking hectic. But we are getting to the point, I think it was Nate or Back to Roots said that the whole world's kind of getting sick of this right now. I feel like we all have a little bit of Islamic fatigue. It just keeps coming up.
Yeah.
So you can't really have a regime like Iran running around, but with their extremist. Well, it's not even extremist. It's just living the Quran to the T, essentially, boys. There's no such thing as extremist Islam.
Well, yeah,
Islam is
I'll
an
give
extreme
him.
religion.
Yeah, there's no moderate Islam. You can have moderate Muslims, but you can have no moderate Islam.
Well,
It's
I would ask.
it's unconditional.
I would
Yeah,
ask what this operation like after this operation is done, right? Or after we achieve whatever people think that we're there to achieve. I would ask like who is going to be taking power, because like you have like the U.S. National Intelligence Council, right? It was an unclassified document that warned that the Iranian regime was unlikely to be toppled even by an extensive assault like what we're doing right now, and was unlikely to like lead the country's opposition from taking power. So I would just
You
ask the question. I would just ask the question: what other like regime or not regimes, but what other kinds of people are going to take power in Iran, and what people do we want to take power in Iran? I don't
you're
agree with
probably
their regime.
wait, real quick. Can I say something to this person in the comments, and you guys keep your train of thought real quick? All I'm gonna say is that it's not a power trip, even if it is to some degree. There's no cover up to be had, attention from the Epstein or the E files. I'll say it that way. Sorry, and the reason why I say that is because, dude, there's so much information that probably hasn't even fully been dug up yet, to where like, just get over it. Like, this shit is evil, nonetheless. I'm sure that this is going to be such an ongoing case that just shut the fuck up about it, Iris. Okay, it's happening. It already happened, and shit's coming out. Okay,
Yeah.
it just is. There's 3 million files. Get over yourself. Like, I'm not saying that these things are good in any aspect. I'm just saying, to a degree, just shut up and let it happen. Like, the world's gonna figure shit out.
Yeah, I don't agree with what she said at all, but
Well, yeah, back to what you guys were saying.
yeah.
Sorry, that
Yeah.
whole E
No,
file
you're
shit already to me.
you're
They're just
good. You're good.
God.
I honestly
I honestly get sick of it too, and I'm not even American, boys, so I'm right behind you there.
They're
I don't.
distracted from everything else.
Oh, distracting. So, like, motherfucker, Trump released the files only to have to distract you from them. Like, how stupid do you have to be to follow that cognitive fucking thought process, bro? Like, what the fuck?
Dude, you've
Sorry, I
yeah.
don't know.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. Let's keep it on topic.
Oh, boys, I'm sick of it too. But yeah, no, look, after that whole Bondi thing down here, no one's like support for our most, let's call it, right wing political party has soared. So like, I think the whole world is kind of sick of Islamic bullying. We're sick of having to bow down to them, and I feel like
You're
that is
Islamophobic.
part of
How dare you?
Yeah,
that's
dude. They
well, it's
use
part of
they
the
use
justification
fear.
of why we went to Iran.
They
They
use
use
We're
leftist
coming too,
logic.
boys.
How dare you?
You've asked us to come. Fucking, we're gonna
Yeah,
send
they
SMS
they
from here.
absolutely use kindness at first in a facade type of way to where it becomes we're the religion of peace. But if you read the Quran, oh my God, you are so lying to
Well,
me.
it's you know,
Like,
I said this to Nate earlier, Ian, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but I said I'm in Mecca. What do you expect? That's reflective of when Muhammad was in when he was when he was in Mecca. Mecca used to be a pagan entire controlled thing, right? Like the Kaaba, all like the whole thing that the Muslim pilgrimage is about. That also used to be pagan, right? And it was like Arabian paganism. Muhammad comes in with his message of monotheism, and he's like he's the prophet. He gets laughed at, attacked a lot, and so he has this mindset of I have my religion, you have yours, which is a reference to talking to
first,
pagans,
yes.
right? But then after he gains power, bro, it is death to the pagans. And so
Yep.
that's why I said, what do you expect from me? I'm in Mecca to Nate here, is because if you like, they'll have this facade when they go up to other countries or to neighboring areas. They'll be like, oh, we're all people of the book, right? We're all people of the book. But the thing is, then you realize they have this doctrine of the House of War and the House of Islam. And then you also have to realize they have this doctrine of Taqiyya. And so Taqiyya genuine also, it coincides with the fact that you could literally lie about what the belief
Yes.
believes.
Yes,
So
to
it doesn't
protect
apply
them.
just to normal, like, no, I didn't do that. It applies to aspects of the belief. You can use
Yes.
Taqiyya as a form of dawah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. My guy, have you read the Quran too? Oh my
Yes.
God. Sounds like you have. Let me
Yeah,
ask
I
you
read it.
something. If you actually are in Mecca, have you seen the two road splits? Oh shoot, dude, I forgot what their names are for the roads to where I'll put it like this. It's kind of like a devout believer one way and the non-believers one other way. And they cross like at a section going to Mecca.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is just weird and wild because another thing, dude, I know we're gonna get off like a little bit of subject, so I'm gonna say this and then we got to get back onto this. But like if the Kaaba is something that's real, that essentially in their book that came down as sinless and white from when it was given to them by Allah, then literally it would be now black because of the fact that sin had accompanied the rock from man touching it, and yet they are sitting there worshiping it, essentially equating to that they are worshiping their own sin now. So it's just weird to me. But yeah. Anyways, back to bombing the shit out of these people.
Back to glassing the Middle East.
Oh,
Where are you boys? You boys all American?
I'm an American, man.
I'm American, yeah.
Proud to be one.
Nate, you're in a little follow there, bud.
Appreciate it, man. I got you. No, I like, some people hold me to a feeling of like, you're so fucked up. And I'm just like, I'm sorry that like to a degree I do have some like a bit of some extremes, like in the sense if I was projecting these same things on other people, like I better learn real quick that the world's a big and scary place, no matter how big and badass you think you are, that like what you say to somebody has repercussions, whether good or bad, in regards to, like, if I say something nice to somebody, another person in the whole world may take that negatively on, I don't fucking like this guy talking to this nice girl this way because I like this girl and I'm gonna take his ass out. And then it comes down to, if you say some fucked up shit, then it comes down to, again, there's another bigger, badder motherfucker. So, like, if somebody is talking, then they have to understand that, like, the world is gonna eat you alive, dude. It doesn't matter about your feelings. And so, like, when it comes down to, like, I will say it's justified to a degree of how their ideology is. When it comes down to a person to person individual, then that becomes different, because the person to person individual, I can agree that not all those people are bad people, just as the same as every person living in every country in the world. But you talk a lot of shit, and you say a lot of these things about America, pretty much the world's police, and at some point, dude, you're gonna get slapped the fuck up. So
You know what? Everyone sees
That
it
was
as
a
a
long way
negative
of saying talk
connotation.
shit, get hit.
yeah, I guess so.
Like
Yeah, you're right.
everyone sees America being the world police as some kind of negative thing. Since World War II, sure, both. I mean, you've dragged us into some wars with you as well. But you know what would happen if you didn't do that? If you didn't police the world, we'd be fucked.
That's true.
Well, yeah,
But
it's a double edged sword in my view.
yeah,
It's
America.
it's our biggest asset, and it's our biggest
Yes,
crutch,
sir.
because like it allows us to be essentially have empire status. But the thing is, all empires know that there's a certain there's a certain width they can't exhume before they start having logistics issues. For example, you could see right now we're a little overextended. We're a little overextended with how we are right now. If we
And that
have
applies.
there's like three conflicts always going on that we have our fingers in. Wait, there's always like three pies on the windowsill. We got a finger in each one of them, and so we can't tackle one individually perfectly. That's the biggest issue I have with us being the world's police, is because by proxy of that, we're not going to solve Ukraine as perfectly as we could have. We're not going to solve we're not going to solve like the fucking. Essentially, I think about like when we're not going to solve the Israel issue. You know what I mean? The Israel issue. I mean, it's like nobody fucking likes him over there. Do I think they need to die for it? No. Can I blame them for not liking them? No. And then when it comes to our, global lifelong war with China as an epicenter, essentially, I'm looking at all our conflicts going on. I'm just like, if I was China, I'd move on Taiwan now. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. So, like we have our fingers in too many pies. That's the biggest issue I have with us.
What was that?
What'd you say, Dan?
That actually worries me, boys, that they might actually just be sitting. That worries me that your enemies are just sitting there waiting until you run out of missiles.
Well,
Mhm.
I think there's a couple of, well, more than a couple, but a few major factors that are playing into this, like as to our debt ceiling is getting so big that essentially why this is justified for this particular moment is things that will have, just like I said earlier, is going to essentially have later effects and consequences to things. So, like, us doing this now, to those who are, let's say, allies to Iran, may be in the back burner to a degree for right now. But, like, dude, there's going to be another something that's going to pop up within the next 5 years or less, or to where it's going to consistently grow, and then our debt, is astronomically high, and that, just like the IRS comes for single individuals, imagine it on a worldly scale, to where enough is enough. We're not gonna, help you out anymore, in the sense of like China. All it takes, I'll put it this way, man. all it would take for America to essentially crumble, and I hate saying this and admitting it, but would be China and Russia and maybe one more sizable country to essentially invade us, and we'd be pretty fucked. Even though the fact that we do have the world leading military, we'd be pretty hard pressed to not be fucked.
Well, the thing is for them,
The only way you
the
can
the
take
hardest
America.
it's hard to make a. First of all, we're number one in the with our naval implications, and so imagine if all of a sudden all of our patrolling cruisers and all of our you have destroyers, and then you have something above a destroyer. What's above a destroyer, Dent? Like, wait, we have carriers and we have destroyers and all that. Those are all focused on securing trade routes. Imagine if we consolidate them all on our left and our right to make it would be a reverse D-Day on everybody. And they simply
Look,
don't have our logistics.
if you all wanted to, you could fucking take out any country. Like if you consolidated all your military and went, right, we're gonna fuck over China today, and then went, okay, cool, we didn't take too many casualties, we're gonna fuck over Russia next. You all could do that. The only problem
If
with
that's a
all that-
one-on-one,
Yeah, if it's one-on-one, oh, you know what, mate? There was a time during the Ukraine war where they were saying that the Russians were losing 100,000 soldiers a day, so they're not really ready for long-term war either.
Dude, they lost more
However-
in a day than we lost over a period of 20
Wait,
years in
okay, but-
Afghanistan.
but
Exactly,
but
man.
we did-
exactly.
we did aid them though. So like if they did not have Zelensky essentially like begging Trump to help, you know, if Trump basically said nah, then that could have been a different story.
Oh, you know what? Honestly, here's the thing, right? I honestly think it would have been less destructive to overall society to let Russia tackle Ukraine and let that have been that have been done with it. I think it would have been less destructive.
Dude, yeah, we need to stop.
Like there would be less lives lost, less people. Like, yeah, some people are gonna shift around the map because like, oh, I'm a Ukrainian. I'm totally historically distinct from everything Russia has done. We're totally not culturally compatible based on reason. Like we're totally like it's like India and China. We're different people. It's like okay, bullshit. Okay, that's like it's like the distinction is like East and West Germany. Their social distinction isn't okay. I'm gonna drop you a Russian in front of you and a Ukrainian in front of you. They're both one's gonna speak Ukrainian, one's gonna speak Russian. Tell me who's different. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Culturally, they're not different, but I think the point of not allowing Putin to easily take it is sending a message to China as well. If we let
Well, it is primarily about
Ukraine-
posturing. I will say it is primarily about posturing, but overall, the genuine cost, and the most valuable resource in the world is human lives. The cost would have been so minimal in comparison to how we've poured gas on the fire. We didn't snuff it out.
Yeah, I'll grant that we have kind of done that, you know, and that goes again with your analogy of us sticking our fingers in the pies in the windowsill because, like, dude, that's essentially what we're doing, like everywhere.
Like we could have had like our response definitely in Iran would be so much more surgical if we weren't logistically spread thin like some Vegemite.
Well, think about this though too. Think about all the Iranian people.
Yeah, I gave you a little elbow tap there, Dan. You know, a little Vegemite.
Think
Well,
about
Vegemite.
all the people in Iran that are celebrating the fact that they are now taken away from that dictatorship, and yet the left and people who are like, I'll say, okay, I don't always mind a person being left because I'm like conservative myself, but at the same time, like the far left and the far right is where I'm kind of like, ugh, y'all are annoying.
Oh no, dude, I'm on the far right.
Oh God.
I'm there, dude. I don't even believe in I don't even believe in democracy anymore.
Okay. Well, what I'm what I was gonna say essentially is that, like, you know, there's these people who are basically butthurt and sad that a dictator that was ruining people's lives, unaliving people for super unjust reasons, forcing women to do things, killing, religious groups and sects of people for certain belief systems, and yet the left in America is essentially like, oh my God, Trump, why did you do that? It's like, are you a fucking
Well,
idiot?
I would say it's more so the fact that people know that like the regime isn't gonna change. Like again, because I asked a question earlier, right? It was like proven or not proven, but it was estimated that even these this kind of scale of attacks on Iran wouldn't change its regime and it wouldn't topple its regime, and it would be unlikely that the opposition of that regime would take over after these attacks, right? I don't think that I don't agree with their regime, right? I think it's awful. I think if there was a way for us to get rid of it and have the opposition from that regime take power, then go ahead, go right at it. But the thing is, these things
You don't think
aren't.
it's gonna stick?
I don't think that these things, even because I said earlier from the National Intelligence Council, right? They've even said, right, that an extensive assault like this wouldn't stick to the regime being toppled.
Then I can equate it then to, like, because I like using analogies to bring it down to a super easy understandable level. So, like, essentially what I'm hearing from you is like a heavyweight boxing match, to where, like, what we've done essentially is give them a few nasty ass shots to where they're pretty much down, but they're not out of the fight. Because, dude, we've given them in the past week or so, shoot, what did we hit, their oil stuff like nasty, and that was one of their biggest things, and then taking out their dictator. Now they don't have him as to his actual ideology specifically, to where now the next person has to fill in those shoes, and if they do fill in those shoes, it may be slightly different. It might not be the exact same.
Well, then I would ask if the reason as of to why we're over there was regime change and was to get rid of the regime like Trump says that we want to do, which I agree with.
It's a little bit
Then
of smoke and mirrors to a degree, because they
then
can't tell us everything.
okay, but if that was our reason, and then he's being briefed on the fact that the extensive assault that we're doing right now would unlikely topple the regime, why don't we find other ways of going about it that would be more likely to topple their regime?
Well, I guess you could say, like, the aspect in which we've toppled the figurehead one, obviously, who they kind of have a zealousness for itself,
That took
and
a
then
big blow.
and then beyond that, right? That's just like moral. That's just a moral blow, right? It's not a logistics blow. It's not like an on the ground blow. It's like a moral blow, right? Because your leader ultimately should be the most unreachable. But when it comes to the regime itself, I've spoken to Iranians who are like pro Ayatollah, and I've spoken to Iranians that are not Ayatollah. And from what I can gather from what the sources they gave me, is that when it comes to genuine, zealous regime believers, that's about 30%. 30% isn't nothing, but it's not the majority. Now, but
That's
when it
still a
comes,
big percentage considering the country.
yeah,
30% is 30
it's
million.
it's a solid. It's a solid. That's a solid number.
Million zealots.
So
30 million zealots, boys.
so when it comes to overall that, right? The thing is, we have a higher chance of regime takeover by radicals than you do because they have more. You use a little Yiddish word, for the tiny hats, big wallets. You a little some chutzpah. They got some chutzpah behind them because they know, like, they have zealot security, right? They're zealous. They're zealots for the regime. They have a degree of want to that the average guy is like, well, I'm just concerned about my day-to-day life, my family, versus this person's like, I'm going to die for the cause.
Yeah.
So to a degree, I give credence to what you're saying, Eden, but you always do in society. History repeats itself, like we're going to see with other regimes historically. You do have some cases where the everyday man says, you know what, like, we're just going to have to purge these radicals. We're going to have to purge these zealots because they're dragging us into so much shit. Essentially, they're going to have to overcorrect, kind of like how Germany is, like, so left because any ounce of, like, nationalism or, like, conservative behavior is like, oh my god, we're going to go into that National Socialism bent again if we encourage any ounce of it. That's the sort of response I can see coming out of Iran, this radical overcorrection and political posturing for maybe 30 years after the regime falls. But it's more likely, I'll grant it to you, that we're going to see the regime come back, but they're going to be more quid pro quo, I think, at the end of the day. There'll be more, if you give a little, you get a little. They're going to be more negotiable because they'll have seen practically what happens if you don't negotiate.
I think it could go one of two ways, boys, because I don't know if you all know the history of how the Islamic Revolution come into power, but it was because of the last Shah. So the last of the royal bloodline
And I gotta
of
go,
Iran
boys.
was an
You have a good one.
absolute piece of shit.
Yeah, you too, man.
Have a good one, Dent. Dent, you earned a little
Later,
follow,
brother.
too, bro.
Later,
I
brother.
myself am going to be ending pretty soon. I myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like the only place these guys could gather and talk was at a mosque. Yeah, so the Muslim Brotherhood or the Islamic revolutionaries come in and they said, "Oh, we're going to create this change. It's going to be great," and they all voted for it because they got sucked in by religious extremists. Now, I've also heard from very good authorities and just people in general, like the fastest growing church in the world is in Iran. They've shut down like hundreds of thousands of mosques because people are turning to Christianity there. So I don't think they're going to have a chance to bring up another regime if this one topples. I don't think anyone's going to give them that option or opportunity. So if you get this right the first time around and you take out enough of them, I don't think they're going to come back. The main concern that I have is that they're going to send sleeper cells, and they're already here.
Yep.
To most Western countries. Anyone that helps you guys is gonna cop a
And I don't mean
terrorist attack.
to sound, just fucked up, but like, what are some of the main jobs? Like, it's so stereotypical. And I know that sounds bad, but like, dude, I used to do DoorDash or Lyft or Uber, or taxi stuff. Like, a lot of that stuff is just run by I can't say Iranians, but I will say people of the Islamic faith, and then at the same time, the people who own like Quick Mart, or small convenience stores, gas stations, these are all stereotypical things, but I will say a lot of stereotypes have truth in them, in that regard. So the sleeper cell thing, I don't think would be, thrown out the window, kind of a thought, because I can go into conspiracy, blah blah, but I'm not gonna.
They've already
But
said that they're gonna do it, mate.
yeah,
They've already mentioned that they're doing it. Like, we will face repercussions for this in the West, unfortunately, and it's going to be the innocent civilians that cop it, not the military.
yeah. All right.
Good to be back, Lash.
At least for myself, Protect, you said that you were gonna get off, so I'm probably gonna head out as well. Just thank you for
No
bringing me
worries.
up and not just kicking me off and hearing me out, because like I've been on a couple of these panels and these people don't allow, some people that may even like myself have some hard opinions to swallow sometimes. So thank you for at least being a genuine dude and hearing me out.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
I'll
Thank
give you a
you.
follow up for that too, because that's well earned. So thank you, man, and you guys all have a good rest of your night.
Yeah,
You too.
likewise. Have a good night.
Hey, you too, brother.
Nice to see you
Good
again,
one,
Ian.
boys.
Long
Stay
time.
safe.
Yeah,
Nice to see you, man. This is great.
yeah. Good night, everyone.
I'm going to bounce to Ian, but stay safe, eh?
You too,
Likewise.
man.
Have a good one.
Yeah.